Bralon, from '08 to 2015, Oregon did
Mm-hmm.
not lose a rivalry game to Oregon State.
Yes,
I
sir.
don't think you were ever on the wrong side of that.
Yes,
Can
sir.
you? What do you remember about playing Oregon State, their fans, playing in Corvallis? Just kind of how was the atmosphere when y'all would play those Civil War games?
It was awesome, man. Like I said before, talking about waking up on game day when the Civil War came, because there were some seasons where Oregon State was like, no disrespect, but they were bad. You know what I mean? But waking up on that day, you knew that like if we lose this game, like that just made their whole season. So it was super exciting, man. Like as a freshman coming into it, not really knowing because I didn't really know much about Oregon State at the time besides Jaquiz and James. Like, they were from Houston. Those were two guys that I looked up to at the time. So I knew about them, but like I had really no history on the Beavers at the time. But as a freshman, I found out really quick, like, being able to go in there as a true freshman and play, and just because the first year I played, it was at Corvallis. It was in Corvallis, so we played at their stadium. And one thing I can remember, bro, is on every third down, that chainsaw they would play, man, it was awesome. Like they got a great atmosphere there. And actually, funny enough, I was watching, I was praying for Washington to lose last week when they played Oregon State, they played in Corvallis. So I was telling all my friends, like, dude, it's gonna be a hard game to win, and it rained. It was raining like crazy. So I was telling all my friends, it's gonna be hard to win there. But I'm so proud of that, man. Just like you talked about, not losing to them for 4 years. I played them and I didn't lose one. That's one thing I'm always proud of. There were some years at Oregon that we didn't do too great as far as the Oregon standards goes. Like I never had a losing season, but at Oregon we expect to be playing on New Year's, you know what I mean? And there were some years that we didn't, but the thing that we can hang our hats on is we didn't lose the Civil War. So both sides take it serious. Like, in Corvallis, they take that serious. Like if they can beat Oregon, like, all right, our year is made. And Eugene, like we could be 10-0. And if you lose the Civil War, the season was a waste. You know what I mean? So, it's like that rivalry, like it runs deep, and there's all type of history that goes back into it that that you learn while you're there, and it's awesome.
Yeah, was that interesting for you as an out-of-state guy moving in there, trying to understand this rivalry? Is it like a big brother, little brother kind of thing? And obviously, Oregon State is up right now, right? They're number 11, but going into that Washington game, they still have a chance to have back-to-back 10-win seasons for the first time in school history. What was your sense of like kind of the dynamic between Oregon and Oregon State when you moved there?
I was learning at the time. I knew about Texas A&M versus Texas, or Ohio State versus Michigan, or Florida versus Florida State, or Florida versus Miami. Like I knew about those, but at the time I didn't really, like I say, I knew about Oregon, but the only thing I knew about Oregon State was Jaquiz and James Rogers. You know what I mean? Like those were guys I looked up to. So like when I got there as a freshman, like I'm going through the season just playing. And first of all, I'm a happy-go-lucky 18-year-old kid. I'm up on the roster as a true freshman. I'm traveling with the team, and I've scored maybe a couple of touchdowns here. But like
you're in the video game, right?
Yeah,
big deal.
Exactly. So I'm back nobody's picking Oregon State at that time, by the way. You know what I mean? So like I'm not getting any history on them, but like that Civil War week, I just remember like I think at the time either we were undefeated or we may have lost one game. No, we lost to Stanford earlier that year. So we lost to Stanford, and we were like number 3 in the country at that time. We had lost to Stanford. And I remember that week, like everything we had did prior to that point was like, it didn't matter. You know what I mean? Like tonight is like, this secures our season. Obviously we're going to be in a bowl game, but if we don't handle tonight, everything else we did was a waste. So, learning about that history and learning about how important it was to, the people up in Corvallis and what it means to them, and the people down in Eugene and what it meant to them. It was crazy, man. Like I said, my first one being at their stadium it made it 2 times more intense. It was awesome. I think at that time, McMahon, no, what's his name? Sean McManion was their quarterback at that time.
Sean Mannion, yeah.
Sean Mannion. He was good. Like they had him. I think Brandon Cooks was there at the time. Like I played against so many good guys. Jordan Poyer was there at the time. So it was an awesome game. Like I said, they weren't that good that year, but every year I played in that game, it was competitive every single year.
Now let's talk about this year's team. You mentioned obviously this has been a really good Oregon team this year. They're in the thick of the playoff hunt right now. I'm curious, how much time do you get to watch Oregon football? Obviously you had your own season going on. in Ottawa. But how much do you get to watch, and what do you think of this year's Oregon Ducks team?
I like them, man. I like them a lot. Like I said, I've had some games on the same day where they have or at the same time. But anytime I haven't, I've watched them. I've caught at least 8 games this year. And me and one of my friends, he's a big time college football fan too. I talk to him all the time, and we both agree that I think this Oregon team this year is probably like the minus maybe 1 or 2 crystal ball teams. But this Oregon team this year is one of the teams that I feel like remind you of that era of like Darren Thomas, Jeremiah Mazzoli, Marcus Mariota, like those teams right there. I think this team reminds me something close to those teams. Just the balance, the defense, the offense, the special teams. Bo is playing awesome right now. Troy breaking both of those records he just broke. Seeing that even, Bucky, those guys in the backfield, I think this team I think they can legitimately get it done. Like if they get a chance to get into the playoffs, if they handle business and win out, and if they get that chance to get in, I think they can legit contend for the title.
Obviously Bo Nix, you mentioned he's had a great season. He's in the thick of the Heisman Trophy race. If you had a vote, is it safe to assume it's going to Bo?
Yeah, my vote for sure would go to Bo. Not being biased, I would give a vote to Penix also, and but if I had 3 votes, they're going to Penix, Bo, and Jaden Daniels from LSU, and those are the 3 kids that would get my vote. But as a homer, I'm gonna give all my votes to Bo. You know what I mean? So I'm for sure hoping he gets it, man. As a guy like I watched him when he was at Auburn, and seeing how talented he was when he was at Auburn, and just like as a young kid, and then having a chance for us to get him when he's like he's got skin in the game, and people make the jokes about how old he is and things like that. But if you just look at the growth, I'm happy he's wearing our jersey. You know what I mean? Because like I saw it, like when he beat us as a true freshman, I was like, oh shoot, that kid's gonna be good. Like I don't know what happened, in between those years, or why it didn't work out. But since he's been here, like everything I saw when he was at Auburn, like I've been seeing since he's at Oregon. And I think the staff has been doing a good job of, continue to mold him and continue to help him get better because he's playing awesome football.
Bralon, I'm curious what you thought this summer with the way that the Pac-12 blew up, Oregon moving to the Big Ten. I'm sure that was like interesting to wrap your head around based on your time playing in the Pac. Like what would you have been bothered by that move playing, switching leagues when you were in school? Like, what do you think of that future in the Big Ten, and what do you think that's going to mean for like just the players on that team to be, playing all over the country now?
Man, I'm interested to see how it's going to work, to be honest. As a kid, who played Division I football, even before I played watching Division I football, it kind of ruins my nostalgia as a kid because like I'm so used to the Pac-12 or Pac-10 at the time. I'm so used to the Big 12. I'm so used to the Big 10. The Big East, the ACC, and now it's starting to like, see all these conferences kind of crumble and just see it like, this school being placed here, that school being placed there, and it's just all over the place. So from a nostalgia standpoint, it kind of screws with you, like as a person who's been a long time college football fan and who's played. I think it kind of, ruins that aspect. But at the same time, I'm not excited, but I'm interested to see how it works out because I think a long time, besides this year, the Pac-12, and you guys can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I personally think that the Pac-12 wouldn't get so much respect because like most of our games would come on like late. Like right now I'm on the East Coast, and there are sometimes I watch Oregon play and it's rolling around like the third quarter, like with 10 minutes left in the third quarter, and it's 1 a.m. over here, and I'm like, yo, I don't know if I'm gonna make it through this game. And when you're there and you're playing it, you're not thinking about that. But like some of those East Coast voters and East Coast people who have opinions and have skin and deciding on what rank is here and what rank is there, they don't get to see. You know what I mean? Because it's 1 a.m. in the middle of the third quarter. So I'm excited to see like us, USC, UCLA. Get to go compete against Michigan, get to go compete against Ohio State, get to go compete against Wisconsin. And, let's be honest, for the majority of college football, like those people who like have that power of saying who's ranked where, like their babies are the Big Ten and the SEC. Like they love those, 2 conferences. So I'm excited to be able to see Oregon go over to the conference and be able to compete week in, week out with those schools and be able to be on a national stage week in, week out. But at the same time, like you asked, as a kid who's going to be in that situation, I don't know how it's going to work. Because if I got to go to play Wisconsin on Saturday and, the game ends at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., and then I got to jump back on a plane, I get back to Eugene in the middle of Sunday morning, and then you expecting me to be in class on Monday morning. I don't know how it's going to work out. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just being honest, So, and that's just one weekend. You know what I mean? What if you got to go to Wisconsin one week, come back, play a home game, and then 2 weeks you go to Michigan, and then the next week you go to Ohio State? Like, how is that, as a kid, like, I just don't know how it's going to work, man. But like I said, I'm interested to see, I'm sure kids will adapt. They'll have some type of, thing in place to help it, help the kids do better at it. But like I said, I think it's going to be tough on the kids to be able to have to do that Saturday in, Saturday out, and then be in class on Monday, or, because sometimes they're going to have to leave on a Thursday. So, they might miss Thursday and Friday class. You know what I mean? So I'm interested to see how it play out, but I'm excited for them to be able to go compete on a national stage week in and week out.
Yeah, of course. As we know, this means that Oregon State are not going to be in the same conference starting next year. Obviously, right. Oregon State still trying to figure out their situation. Mm-hmm. And we saw this weekend, Washington State announced that they're going to continue the Apple Cup for the next 5 years through 2028 to keep that rivalry going. Mm-hmm. I'm curious. We've seen a lot of rivalries break up over realignment. Mm-hmm. Texas A&M was one of them. Obviously, right. We've seen a lot of others. How important to you as a Duck is it that Civil War continues between Oregon State, even if they're in different conferences moving forward?
I think it's very important, man. Like I said, as a kid, I grew up watching Texas A&M. Thanksgiving time, I was watching Texas A&M. I was watching Ohio State, Michigan. I think rivalries are important for college football because those, especially in Eugene and Corvallis, those fans deserve it. You know what I mean? Like those students, most of those students, they get up for those weeks. You know what I mean? Like some of those students in Corvallis, they probably haven't been to a game all year because they've been swamped with finals or they've been swamped with tests. But they block out their schedules to go. I'm going to the Civil War. I'm buying my tickets early because I'm gonna go to the Civil War. Same in Eugene. Those students, some students don't get to go to a game all year. It's sold out, but they in August or September they buy tickets for November to go to the Civil War. So I hope they can find a way to keep that game going. I think it's awesome for both cities. It's awesome for both fan bases. I think it'll be sad if they don't continue it. I'm glad Washington State decided to keep theirs going because I think rivalries are important in football. Like if, God forbid, if Oregon has a season where we're in a losing season and Oregon State has a season when they're in a losing season, the only thing people are going to talk about from that season is who won the Civil War. You know what I mean? So I think rivalries can, while you still have bad teams sometimes, rivalries are something that teams can have to look forward to. It gives kids something still to play for.
All right, last one before I let you out. How do you think it's going to go this weekend? What's your prediction for how this weekend plays out?
Man, like I said, I've been watching, man. I think Oregon State, this is one of the best teams they have also had in a while. I think DJ's playing good football right now. Jonathan Smith, I like what he's done with that team. I actually thought they were going to beat Washington last week to help us kind of jump them. But I'm glad they didn't, though, because when we beat Oregon State and when we have to play Washington in the Pac-12 championship, I think it's going to be sweeter for us to jump back into that playoff conversation for real. But to answer your question, with respect, I'll say we win by 10 to 13, in between 10 and 13.
Okay.
I'm going to be respectful and say we win 10 13. So, they're playing good football, so I'm going to say 10 to 13.
I personally think Oregon's going to win the rematch too next week.
I do too. I think people don't understand how hard it is to play in that stadium up in Seattle. That is a good atmosphere. That was one of my favorite places to play when I was playing at Oregon. It was when we played Washington, we would go play in that stadium. That stadium it's intense, and especially when they're good like they are now, and they got Penix spinning the ball how he is, and that defense is playing how they are. Those fans get rowdy up there. So I think when we play in Vegas and it's a neutral site, and we'll see how far their fans traveling, how much of them traveling. We'll see how much of our fans travel. Like, we got to take care of this week first, but I'm speaking into fruition. So I think, in that rematch, I think we'll win too. So
how much does this one being in Autzen matter? Like, how much does that swing this?
Bro, it's huge. Like, it's huge. Like, I got fans who bet on college football. I mean, I got friends who bet on college football, and like they're always asking me, like, yo, this team, or this team, or what you guys gonna do this weekend? And so, like, we were talking about the Civil War, and they asked me, like, y'all gonna beat Oregon State? And I literally asked them, I said, where we playing at? Because at the time I didn't know. And they were like, oh, y'all at home this year. And I was like, okay, because it's hard to win in Corvallis, man. I don't know if you watch. To the people who watch this, if you watch that game where Oregon State and Washington played, like, you should understand now, like, it's no joke. Like, these stadiums on those late nights in the Pac-12, it's hard to play there. Like, every year when I watch Oregon, it's always 3 places I'm scared of to play at late in the year. Utah, at Washington State, at Oregon State. I'm always scared to play there late in the year because it's hard to win there. So I think it's huge that we play in Eugene.